Oh, hey, we're live. Hey, that's fantastic. Um, and again, I hope it's recording, but we'll find out. Hey, I'm Clay Adams. If you're watching, you probably know who I am because you're probably subscribed to the Substack. But I'm here talking with James Powell, who's editor extraordinaire, and he's got a fantastic new book here for us. And I thought, let's chat about it. Why not?
Heck yeah. And it's your first Substack live. I'm honored.
This is the maiden voyage, and you are a part of it. So
I,
I
I
see
look
some people.
forward to seeing what happens. Look at
Yeah,
all the people joining. That's fascinating.
I know. This is amazing.
So
Hey,
excited.
we got a lot of
It's
great people in the
working. Oh
house.
my God.
Oh my God. Yes. Tyler, Justin, hello. Thanks for the comments, gentlemen. Yeah, so listen, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, and they should, especially if they make comics, why don't you give your secret origin, which is a question I always like to start with. How did you come to be? What got you into this mess?
Wow, that's okay. I'm gonna try to figure out the 2-minute version. I've loved comics since I was a kid, just like most of us, right? I grew up in the 80s, big Marvel nerd. But I was also I graduated with an English degree, so I've always been surrounded by words with storytelling. And somewhere along the line, I'm thinking maybe 15 years ago, I actually had a website called Bookshelf Comics where I reviewed trade paperbacks and original graphic novels. And I interviewed creators and started to realize that I would rather make comics than review them. And I actually did some light editing for Robert Tennell and Todd Livingston on some of their image books, and I was hooked. The next thing I know, I'm wanting to do that as much as I could, right? So I
That's not a
started
bad
editing on the
way to
side, and
start. Yeah.
it was yeah, totally awesome. It was so much fun. That was before. This is dating me, right? But that was before YouTube, right? So it was all text based and some graphics. And I don't even know if I tracked numbers, but I'd loved meeting creators and talking to them. And the next thing here we are years later. I've gotten a couple of books written. I've edited plenty of books, and now I've written a book about editing. So
Okay, now why did you want to write a book about editing? What do you feel like this book is going to bring to the world of independent comics?
okay, about 6 or 7 years ago, I quit my corporate writing job. I was just fed up. Couldn't do it anymore. The stress was through the roof, and I talked to my wife and I said, I got to get out now. And I started editing more. It was, a side hustle at first, and I started editing more. I edit novels and comics, and I started noticing almost immediately that some of the same problems were creeping into all the scripts I edited. And these are kind of some of the things I had noticed in the indie comics I read as well. But there's just something about editing more frequently. If you just edit like every 5 months, that didn't really register in my head. But once I started editing, every other week a new script, they started to surface more. I started to see the pattern. And sometime last year, maybe 16 months ago, I kind of gathered, I don't know, the top 5 or 10, I forget what it was, and had like a little webinar. And I shared some tips and tricks for other writers. And I got good feedback, good response. So I started tracking even more stuff. And oh, my screen just went blank. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
That's weird. Okay. Um, and yeah, the response was great. So I started writing down more stuff. And the next thing I know, I'm writing a book about it. And my intent to start was just going to be something short, like 100 pages worth of tips and tricks. And then it just kept growing and growing. That's why I didn't, I kind of laugh at myself that theoretically, I thought I could write this, you know, over a couple of weeks because I was like, oh, this is stuff I talk about and do all the time. And then it just kept growing and growing. And I realized that instead of just talking about the storytelling problems I see and how to fix it, I actually wanted to show people how to edit themselves as well, to actually walk through the self-editing process. So now we're sitting at a, I don't know, 220-page book, and yeah, that's where we're at now. Hopefully
Uh,
that answered your question.
no, it does, and that's very much like me. I think I'm writing a short story, and then it turns out I'm writing a 22-page book, and then it turns out I'm writing a 28-page book, and then it turns out I'm really writing a 4-issue miniseries. And
I love it.
what I need is a good editor. So that's why you're in the picture. And
I think you have a couple of good editors in your
I've worked with
realm.
a few good editors, but I got to tell you, the reason why I wanted to work with you when we started on Frankenstein was like, I mean, I remember you read the script, and like your notes were like just so insightful, and like things that it's like, okay, I should have spotted this. Like when you say it, it sounds so simple. But like I think sometimes as writers, we are so close to the stuff that we're working on. It's really hard to imagine somebody coming to it fresh. And so you
Yep.
you just brought that fresh perspective, and like just I was like, oh shit, this guy really does know what he's talking about. Like, because a lot of people give you notes and they give you feedback, and not all feedback is equal. So
Right. Yeah.
yours
So
was very good.
yeah, it's hard to be a writer because like you're kind of classically trained. You've done it. You've I don't know. You've probably had what 20 issues out now. Um,
So many comics.
you would think that kind of like okay, this you've done this before. It's a slam dunk, but you just can't see. It's hard to see your own weaknesses or see the spots that are not engaging readers as much as you want them to. So and
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
tough.
an editor brings is that not just another set of eyes, but kind of I've been in storytelling since I was a kid. I've been reading storytelling books and writing books and all, and I've been in classes to learn how to edit and all that stuff. So I like to believe I bring something to the table to help point out how to elevate uh, your writing as opposed to, oh, I don't like this character name or the ending didn't work for me. It's more robust than that. So
No, it was always like really great feedback. And I love that you're tailoring the book to also sort of helping writers be able to develop that muscle where they can kind of read as if they're coming to it with fresh eyes, because that is like a muscle that you do need to develop. And I feel like I am getting better at it, but I don't think I would ever want to not have an editor. Like I think it's I don't want you to be so successful with this book that you talk yourself out of a job, is what I'm saying.
right.
Uh,
Well, so my hope is I want to help writers get better at those first, second, and third drafts, so that when you do send it to a professional editor or even a peer that you trust, your script is already better than it was before. And
right.
as an editor myself, I know that if you bring your A game, I can bring my A game, and I can help you elevate it even one more level. If you write one draft and it's kinda sloppy, there's typos everywhere, and you didn't bother checking to see if the character development works or if there's enough conflict and tension, then I'm gonna point out the most basic stuff, and that's only gonna make your comic almost, like, acceptable, if
Right.
that's probably not the right word, but it's
It's
not
going to
up
make it
to your A
basic.
game. Yeah, exactly. So and that's what this book does, I hope, is kind of, shine a light on some of those more I don't wanna call them storytelling 101 because it's more than that, but if I could help writers elevate and just make their first I don't wanna say first draft either 'cause, let's face it, I mean, some of the drafts of my books, we're talking like ten rounds of editing and rewriting,
Sure.
um, but yeah, you still need to have a peer or a professional editor work with you, and I think that just, again, gets it even stronger, and that's kinda what I want out of independent comics is just stronger comics. There's a hint of, like, selfish reasoning, and when I go to Kickstarter, I want to read great comics, right? And if I can kinda push writers to make better comics, then that benefits me as a reader too.
Yeah, for sure. We have Justin Gray in the house, writer of some fantastic comics, and he says
Absolutely, sure.
there are working professionals who try to do their passion projects that need that honest set of eyes. And that is so true. It's like it's not like you get to a certain level and you're editor proof, that like that no one can bring anything to your project. And I've definitely seen there are certain creators that I've followed who like I've seen them on some big time books with some great editors and like they're super strong books, and then I'll see a passion project or something, and it is definitely like, oh, this could have used another set of eyes. Not that it's bad, not that it's whatever, but it's like, okay, yeah, this could have used just somebody else looking over
Yep,
this.
agreed. And honestly, those passion projects are the kind of the most dangerous because it's something that you've sat with since you were in high school, say, or it's been percolating for
Yeah,
years and years, and you're so close to it. It's almost impossible to see what's on the page because you've been sitting with it in your head for years. And even if you do share it with someone else, you're like, oh, they misread that because in my head, I know the world that I'm building.
right.
And it's it's such a tough thing to be a writer. I mean, don't get me wrong, writing is fun. But at the same time, there's so many challenges and there's so many ways that you just overlook the things that should be obvious. Like you mentioned earlier, it's like I can point out things because I see them all the time, or I'm not you. I haven't been working on this script for the last 4 months. So like when you say it's easy for me, or I point out something that you should have seen yourself. I know that you might knock yourself, but to me, it's just we're working together on this script to make the script as strong as it can be, as opposed to like me knocking you as a writer. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a great point because I do feel like there are a lot of creators, and look, I'm guilty of this myself. It's tough to put yourself out there, like you're putting your writing, your work out there. People are going to judge it. They're going to have all kinds of reactions. I know that and I've been doing this for about 15 years or so now. But I've sometimes like had very strong negative reactions to things people have said, like readers or however they might take something. So it's like any you have to learn how to deal with that and realize that an editor is not there to tear you apart and tell you how shitty you are as a human being and as an artist. uh they're there to because like they see something of value in this and they want to make it better. And so that definitely took me some time to and it's like, and I know this because I've been a professional actor for years and years and years, and it's like, it's the same thing in acting, right? A director is not there to tell you you're garbage. I should
Yeah.
have cast somebody else. you know, they're there to help, build what's already there into an even better performance. And so with writing, but even with the artist, like it's not even just about writing as well. I mean, I had this conversation with an artist recently where I had to sit the person down and say, hey, look, uh, when you're given a note, it doesn't mean you're terrible. It means like most of the time it means like 90% of this is great. Like, and if you could just tweak this last little 10%, it would be phenomenal, you know? And so I think it's just like a little mindset thing we got to get over.
Well, I think some writers, well, some I shouldn't say some writers, some people who participate in creating comics altogether forget that it's a collaboration.
Right.
Um, Writers might come to the table and almost demand that it's a certain way. Oh, this is what I envisioned with my script, and you misread it. As opposed to letting the artist let their talent shine through and work together as a team. Same with the colorist, the letter, everybody. And I've worked with unfortunately, some editors who are just like kind of like assholes. The bedside manner, just like I read their comments and I know that it's valuable, but they make me feel like a terrible human. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? As
Right.
opposed to pointing out my strengths and my weaknesses, or showing how to improve a thing. It's one thing to say this scene is terrible. It's another thing to say this is why it's not working, and here's some suggestions on making it better.
Right. Yeah. So like I don't like this is not a note. Or, even like this is overwritten is not a note, or this is underwritten. Like those are some things that sound like notes, and like they're things that I've heard before from people. And but they're not really notes. Like they're not actionable. Okay, if you think something's overwritten, what do you think can be cut? If you think something's underwritten, what do you think you need more of?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's got to be some kind of positive direction, something actionable. And I do think a lot of people who are used to like reading something and making value judgments as a reader don't quite understand because while it may be true, the thing may be overwritten or it may be underwritten or whatever. That there's not really anything you can take away from that, as an actionable step.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's kind of like, almost a different version of like a family member doing a beta read for you. Um,
Hmm.
Somebody who reads a lot of comics or reads a lot of books or watches movies or whatever it is, they might be able to say, "Oh, I didn't like it. The middle was boring," or whatever, but it's not actionable.
Right.
Uh, and I think that my gut, sometimes I feel like with our current society, everybody's pushing to turn things around super fast, and oh, I'll just have my wife read it, or I'll have my friend read it,
Yeah.
and, "Oh, I had someone read it, and that I can check that box." But like you're saying, that's not valuable feedback, or actionable feedback. It's valuable in the sense that, "Oh, yeah, I failed this reader because my hero didn't do this," or whatever. Um, but without actionable feedback, I think that doesn't do writers the service that they need.
Yeah, and I think you can like something like that can maybe give you a sense of when something isn't working, but it doesn't necessarily tell you, what you need to do. And sometimes like somebody who knows what they're talking about can't necessarily tell you what to do because, you're the writer, sometimes you got to figure out the solution yourself in a way that satisfies the note, but there are definitely degrees of feedback.
Yeah, and I think right now, especially with indie creators, with the writer, most writers I work with anyway, they kind of own the story. They hire out the creative team. Even though they all collaborate, ultimately the writer gets to decide what goes into the comic. So what I tend to do is point out things that aren't working. I might suggest something. Uh, just in my the way I suggest, or I don't want to say brainstorm, but when I give feedback that says this isn't working, try this. It's more about giving that writer an example of how they could fix it, not to
Mhm.
actually take my idea. Um, Ultimately, I want this to be your story. I want your voice to shine through. Um, and my suggestions are almost just to solidify my feedback so that you can go off, sit with that suggestion for a week or two, and come up with a plan that works for you and your artist and the team and the story you're telling. So
Yeah, I think when I first started out, I felt very much like, "Oh, if the editor is giving me this suggestion, I have to take it." Right? And
yeah,
I have to incorporate whatever their suggestion is. And sometimes I look back on those comics and I'm like, I should have interpreted this in my own way because now I'm hearing like it's jumping out to me. I'm hearing the editor's voice instead of like my voice. So yeah, that's a really important point that you're giving suggestions to kind of kickstart creativity. But ideally the writer is going to interpret it through their own lens and come up with something that like takes the note but also makes it better, hopefully.
exactly. Yep. And I always like with Zoom and calls that are super easy too. It's you're not working in a bubble. Hopefully you're working with your artist, for example, and talking and communicating about things. Same with your editor. Uh, if you have a solution to something that was problematic, an editor can poke holes in that new idea or help push you to be even stronger, I think.
Mhm.
But I think with what you said earlier just now about working with editors, I think that's part of the growth. Uh, when you're first starting out, anybody who's quote unquote better than you or higher on the ladder or whatever terms you want to use, you kind of see them, oh, they're telling me to do this. But as your growth as a writer, I think you start to realize that no, I'm just taking feedback and putting my own spin on it. Um, but that's kind of within the independent community. If I were to work with a public, like if I were to go write a Marvel book, I listen to the editor. You know what I mean?
Sure,
It's
sure.
it's
You
because
might be
it's not my story anymore. It's I'm writing Spider-Man or something, and someone else owns Spider-Man. So it's slightly different there, but ultimately, it's your book as an indie creator. You decide what changes and what doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very fair caveat, right? Right. If you're looking working for DC, Marvel, or whatever, you might be contractually obligated to take their
Right.
note.
Well,
Uh,
and there's I work with writers who like work on like they're writing a kid's graphic novel, for example, and they're trying to pitch Scholastic or whoever. It would be hard. I would have a hard time saying no to an editor who or a publisher who's saying, "We'll take it if you do this, this, and this." Right. So
yes,
it's a different. We're all editors, but there's different types of editors, and who says what dictates what depending on that role and where they are in the process of publishing. So
sure. Yes. So right. So fair. Right. Again, fair distinction between like a publishing house telling you something, and like this is your independent passion project.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
even if well, so yeah, so I've been on that call, right, where like I was with a co-writer and a publishing house was telling us like we'd like this, and the co-writer was like, "Yeah, we're thinking about doing this." And I had to be like, "Yeah, you know what? If that's what they want to publish, we can absolutely give that to them." We
It
can
reminds me of that
we can make those
Seinfeld
tweets.
episode with George, and he was like, "No, it's about nothing.
It's about
We're
nothing.
not
Yeah.
changing it."
My artistic integrity, yeah. I was just watching that again. That's fantastic. Yes, it's so much about the arts, like, they just nailed, about
Oh,
that whole
totally.
that
Yeah,
whole
it's
thing.
shocking how good it is even today. So
Well, I wanna talk about the Kickstarter. Do you have a quick little, I guess I can put it in the chat. There's a live chat. And, hey, everybody, I see you in the chat. I can't respond to every comment necessarily, but I see you and I appreciate you. And I'd kind of like to bring you in. If anybody has any specific questions, like pop it in the
ooh,
chat and I'll ask. Meanwhile,
that's
I'm gonna
exciting.
yeah, we'll see if it works. Could be a total train wreck. I Joseph Shields does ask, what are we talking about? We're talking
That's
about
a great question.
crypto and how to invest. And
How to invest in comics, oddly enough,
that's right.
which
That's
is
right.
which is a great idea.
Okay, I put the link there in the chat. And I guess I could maybe share the screen. Do we want to do that? Um,
Sure. So yeah, I have another proof copy. So I just today on Substack I posted a comment about how you need to print your comics. I know
yeah.
it's an added expense and it sucks to wait 2 weeks to get them or whatever, but maybe you can go to a local store and print them out or go to Kinko's or whatever. I've read this book so many times at this point. I swear I've read it so many times. I printed it out and I thought the PDF was fine. I was considering not doing it. I got a copy and I found a mistake.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
it's so I don't know what it is. I don't know. I haven't done any research to see if there's a psychological element or your eyesight, but things look different in print. That's all there for me. That's all there is to it. So yes, dude, that's that's your free tip of the day is print your comics, read it a second time or a third time or 100th time, and see what you find.
I love that. I One of the best pieces of advice I read was from Joe Hill, who said that like he always changes his font on his scripts every time he does a proofread, and that there's something about seeing it in a new font that makes him
Interesting.
read it differently. And I swear to God, that's true. Like when I sometimes do some proofing for a company based in Toronto, and they'll send me stuff. And every time I do, I read it 3 times. I read it in one font, I switch to another font, and then I switch back to the original font for the third read. And you'd be amazed at like what I find on that third read, the third time through. You know, certainly I
Interesting.
notice things on the second read, but then that third read through again, just going back to a
I
different font.
I would be scared I would forget to put it back to the font I wanted, which would become the error of the printed version.
Sure, sure. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess there's always that danger. But yeah, maybe
Another
with a
proofreading I know this book is more about storytelling than grammar and stuff, but, another tip I would have is to read it backwards. Not
oh,
like literally don't read the sentence backwards, but, like, read the last page, then turn it to the 22nd page and then 21st. There's something about
oh,
reading it
wow.
out of order that triggers something in your mind to make it new and fresh.
I think, yeah, that maybe like forces your brain to work a little harder
Yeah.
and like pay a little closer attention. Oh, that's a cool tip. And Justin Gray says if you don't want to print it out, change the format in which you're reading it. So what I do is
Mm,
I put a digital version on a reader, and then I read it at all different times, day and night. I think that's a good tip as well.
interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Like that. Huh.
So we do have some questions coming in. Do you want to take questions now? Do you want
Sure,
to?
let's
Do you
do it.
want to? All right, let's do
On the
it. So,
fly, let's go.
okay. So a young aspiring comic creator by the name of Tyler James says, "How about some tips for strong openings for a new comic series?" I think he's
So
looking for you to do some free writing for him. That's what
yeah,
I think.
right. So
Don't give this
I
guy
actually have
anything.
an entire chapter on openings. I think with comics, you need to start like with that first panel, especially indie comics. I think if you're a known entity, um, like a well-known image writer, for example, you could probably get away with 1 or 2 pages to pull readers in. Uh, but you really need to start with that opening panel. Start as late as you can with that opening scene. Start with action. Get your characters moving in a way that matters to them. And I don't mean moving as in walking, but making a decision, showing what the your main character is concerned with, what they're scared of, what their goals are in the moment. I think a lot of the scripts I read, the first drafts, or hopefully I'm reading, third or fourth drafts, honestly, but they start with a little bit too much backstory. They're trying to fill in the blanks of who this character is or the world they're in. Readers don't want to have 3 or 4 pages setting up the world. I know your world is probably really cool in your mind, but what they're going to care about is that character and understanding them as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great. I was just reviewing a short story for someone today, and I had that note that like the first page I thought could be cut, like it was a 6 page short story, and I thought you could actually cut this page because the second page starts on action, and it's a perfect intro, and all of that exposition that you were front loading in that first page, you could sort of weave into the other story and you know let the story breathe a little bit more.
Oh, and that's how it works. I mean, your first draft, second draft, third draft, you kind of got to get started, right? You start pulling readers in as much as you can. It's not until you step back and look at it with fresh eyes that you can see, okay, the story actually starts on panel 14, which is
Right.
now on page 3. Let's see what happens if I shift. And a lot of times those opening the world building, for example, or trying to set up how magic works in this world, you can sprinkle that in later without losing your reader. Whereas an opening scene that's 3 or 4 pages long before something gripping happens, you're gonna risk losing that reader that way more than uh, someone who's how does magic work in this world? So
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I was just talking about this with Mick Byers earlier today. We were talking about the Green Lantern movie from years ago, and I've never seen it, but he was kind of saying that it starts with like a huge exposition dump.
yeah.
And it seems to me that like the fun of Green Lantern, especially a character like that like general audiences probably don't know. that the fun would probably be discovering the universe and the lore as Hal Jordan does.
I would
You
think
know,
so, yeah, through his eyes.
through his eyes, right?
Yeah,
Rather than just sort of like giving you all the exposition up front.
yeah.
Um,
And another thing with comics too is, you mentioned a short story. Uh,
yeah,
the fewer pages you have, the more every single panel matters.
right.
And even with the 22-page script, that ending comes fast. So if you're kind of meandering through your opening or even the middle section, you don't have time for that. If you have I'm on a big manga kick right now, and their storytelling's kind of different. It's slow. It's I don't want to say slower, but a scene could be 7 pages, and it is a fraction of a second happens. Right.
Yeah.
Uh, it doesn't seem to feel that way here, where every panel kind of matters. You kind of need to push things forward faster, I think, or you kind of risk losing your reader right off the bat.
Yeah. I am not great at 22 pages. Like, I don't know how anybody writes 22 pages. Like, I can write 24 pages, I can write 26 pages. I've gone up to 32, but I'm actually working on something now where I'm forced to work in the 22-page format. And
Oh, so like it's not movable. You're stuck with
it's
22.
not movable. It has to be 22. And I'm like, "Holy shit, I don't know how people do this." Like, this is to your point, like, this is not as much space as you might think to, like,
Yep.
develop to intro the characters, develop the story, complicate it, and then,
So what usually
finally
happens
satisfying
I've
the ending.
seen is, a writer will have all these ideas. They'll pull readers in slowly, but then suddenly their last 2 pages, there's like 10 panels on each page, and they're trying to cram in that exciting ending. And
Yes,
I'm like, "Well, no. That ending deserves 4 pages. So you're gonna
right.
have to go trim 2 to 4 pages elsewhere. Here's some spots." But the thing I love about comics is also something that's kind of makes it really challenging is you have this limited number of pages and panels. If your ending is too crammed, like it really deserves those 4 pages, but you're trying to get it in 2, so you're trying to make it breathe. So I'm gonna go take out 1 panel from page 3 and the whole page 5. Well, you can't just do that because now all your page turn panels, all those little mini cliffhangers that you were super excited about, well, they're on the wrong page now. So now you have to
Right.
go reflow it and figure out, okay, now I actually need to get rid of 2 pages, or can I combine these 2 panels? And it's almost like you need to have your creative brain and your logic brain working side by side together,
Oh,
to
yeah.
make that work. So
No, that happens to me all the time where I do that and then I'm like, "Ah, I screwed all of my page turns. How am I gonna make this work?" Yeah. Justin says that too. As a companion to that, not enough writers understand how important it is to use page turns for reveals, and that's so true.
yeah, page turns is like it almost feels like a secret weapon, even though every comic writer needs to know it. Even if it's just a character looking off the panel,
Mhm.
hearing a sound, a question, that gets the reader more engaged, more excited to turn that page. And anytime that I see that sometimes you'll in a script I'll be reading that panel happens on the next page, I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, man, you have to get this back on page 3. You can't have it sitting on page 4 halfway through." But then again, once you have all those panels laid out, you ship that back and you're like, "Okay, well, now this one 4-panel page has 6, and the one I
right,
had on the next page now only has 2. Well, that doesn't make sense either now." So you gotta
right.
redo everything, and, uh, it's such a challenge for especially for new writers, but that's one of the things that I've learned to love the most, I think, is that
Okay,
whole
as
rearranging and
yeah, on that point, so Joseph Shields has a question, and I want to get to that in just a second. So little cliffhanger, right? That's my page
that's your
turn.
page turn.
That's my page
Nice.
turn.
Well done.
Yeah. But along those lines about panels and pages and things like that, do you have a guideline you like to use for like how many panels per page, how many scenes, or how many pages per scene, things like that?
I I don't believe in, like, being too strict because some writers, when they hear the average is 5 panels per page. They just kind of get stuck on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Guilty.
I
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
and I think even there's that someone wrote
Thanks
never
for
have
calling
more
me
than
out.
never have you'll know this one too, where they say don't have more than 26 words in a panel or
Yeah.
something to
Right.
that effect. Um, that sounds great, and that's a good guideline. But that doesn't mean if you have 27 words to scrap it or to get rid of one word. It's
Right.
more of a guideline. So I do believe that 5 panels a page feels kind of right, and that should be your general target. But if I see 5 panels every page, it starts to feel static. Even if there's tons of dynamic action and dialogue, it's still like Alan Moore was great at what 9 panel pages in that Watchmen. I think it was
Yeah. Yeah.
at page, but that works. I'm not Alan Moore. You're not Alan Moore, so it's like so for everybody else, you kind of need to vary it, I think. But maybe starting at 5 panels a page is kind of a good target as you're drafting, and then you'll realize, no, this one needs 6, this one needs 3, this one would be a better splash page, things like that.
Yeah, I've definitely started to pay more attention to that because I have gotten that note before. Like you've got 14 5 panel pages in a row, vary that up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have, Shelley Bond has a book with like, some tips and tricks, for editing as well. And like, one of the things I picked up from her was like going through and like just numbering everything on a pad of paper and, 1 to 22 and
Yep.
how many panels on every page just to see, am I varying it? And it is kind of
Yeah, so
amazing what
that's
that can
that's
do.
using the, beat sheet as a diagnostic tool, and actually, when I read that, I felt so kind of I'm not gonna lie, I felt proud of myself because I had started doing that already,
Yeah.
almost like naturally as part of the editing package I do, and seeing that she did that, I was like, "Oh, wait, Shelley Bond does something that I do? I must be on the right track." And, but yeah, I think, that's another thing that a lot of writers, could use, is that when you have it drafted, go back through, go page by page. How many panels is it? What location is it? What actions happen? And you'll start to see certain things. Oh, look, there's 5 pages in a row that my action uh, comic is just dialogue. It's just
Right.
two people talking. Or you'll notice that, oh, wait, 60% of my book takes place at a library. What happens if I take it outside or put it at a bar or something? Little things like that add to your story that if you don't look at that, you don't even see it. You don't recognize it until you see, oh yeah, I have 5 panels for 20 pages in a row. That's not very exciting for readers.
For sure. And it starts to feel kind of samey, but like if you have a lot of panels on a page, if the scene is supposed to feel claustrophobic, that can kind of help with that. If it's supposed to feel very slowed down, that can help with that. But then you
Yeah,
want to open it up, at some point where it's like 2 panels or 3 panels or
exactly. Well, it's funny, even as I'm talking, a 22-page book with every page being 5 panels could work. I mean, to
yeah,
some degree, your comic works or it doesn't. I don't care. You could read this book, read Shelley Bond's books, take all the seminars, and I mean, a comic works or it doesn't. Ultimately, so all
yeah,
these rules that I say, they're just feedback. They're just tips and tricks for you to put into your toolbox. I don't know. Did I just mix metaphors there? Um, but yeah, the more you know, the more you can see, and the more rules you follow, and the better you get at those, the better you can break those rules down the line. But again, using the fact they're not rules, they're just general guidelines. So,
they're tools. Yeah.
yep,
I used to be so fixated on like learning the rules and its story's got to be this and it's got to be that. And then it's like I'd read it and I'd be like, this is not coming to life because I'm
yep.
just following, it's not a recipe.
Oh, yeah, and I say that several times in my book.
Yeah,
I've met with some writers who just right off the bat tell me I followed Save the Cat.
right.
So, and here's like even in the book itself, like there'll be a heading. This is the midpoint. This is the Dark Night of the Soul. Things like that. I'm like, well, that's not exactly how that works.
Right,
You
right.
can't build it. You need to write it, and you need to feel the character and all those things. But uh, Yeah, that's a similar topic, but it's kind of a frustrating one because uh, as writers, we take these classes and learn all these things, and we think that oh, Save the Cat says on the 10% mark this has to happen. Well, it's
Right.
not. It's not how that works.
I mean, I think there is a good, like, Save the Cat has some good feedback, but I think the beat sheet is something that writers should be very wary of. Like you said, following it like a recipe.
Yeah,
It's good to be like aware of these things, but you can't just kind of be slavish to it. You gotta. It's like being a musician. You have to play by feel. Like you can know the
agreed.
notes, but you got to feel the music.
Yeah,
Um,
so like with that beat sheet and Save the Cat and stuff, like one of the things that I noticed is, let's just say the midpoint, which is a pretty big plot point in general. If it happens at the 70% mark, there's that whole section of your story where that might feel flat or like it's not going anywhere.
mhm.
Once you pinpoint that midpoint is where it is, uh, it's somewhat easy to kind of move it closer to the beginning, to move it forward in the story. Either that or take whatever you have as the midpoint and just elevate it and make it bigger. Um,
Right.
but again, that doesn't guarantee a great comic either. And just because that midpoint happens late doesn't make it a bad one. So
Right.
it's art plus science trying to mix together. So
Oh man, I could talk about this stuff all day, but I promised a page turn. And
oh, that's
so
right. We need
our
the splash page. Come on.
our, our so our big splash page is courtesy of Joseph Shields, who asks, "What do you think is the most important thing for a new comic writer getting into the indie space?"
So when I have an answer for this, almost everyone gets pissed off,
Oh,
and so no one
yes,
listens
I
to me.
I can't
Uh,
wait.
if you're legitimately are new, it starts small. Go write
Mm,
a 2-page script, a 5-page script, get into an anthology. You don't know writing a comic script is hard, working with artists is hard. Or I shouldn't say hard, they're challenging. There's all sorts of new experiences you haven't dealt with. I would suggest start to finish, get the idea, write the script, work with an artist, colorist, letterer, publisher, printer, all those things. See where you're at. See what you liked, what you didn't like, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then go build something else. I've worked with too many writers who, hey man, I have this great idea for 100-issue series. This is going to be this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, what have you written? Well, nothing. I haven't done anything yet. And it's like, well, that's too big. That's just
yeah,
almost, I don't know. I'm sure that there's someone out there who found success starting on issue one of a big, long project. But for the most part, starting small is the biggest thing you could do or the best thing you could do.
that's great advice. That's fantastic advice. Um, all right. If anybody else has questions, please pop them in the chat. We will try to get to them. I'm gonna. Can I share my screen? I don't know how this works. Um,
This sounds like another page turn. A big reveal is coming. Let's see what
it
happens.
it could be. I'm gonna go to your Kickstarter page. Are we seeing that?
Look at that.
Yeah, you see it. It's on there.
Uh huh.
All right. So the name of the book is Self-Editing for Comic Book Writers, a practical guide for fixing the storytelling problems that keep good scripts from becoming great comics. I love that. And you already showed your proof, and it looks gorgeous, even though there's a typo. Um, but you
Well,
will
so this
fix
one,
that.
the one I found late, the most recent, it wasn't a typo. I had, at the top of books, they have the title and the chapter title.
Oh yeah.
I had the title of the book on the right side. No one in the world would notice that but me, but that's not the format. The book title is on the
Ah.
left. Oh, good grief.
I mean, and if history, at least my history, is any guide, you'll still publish it and find something else. But
Oh, absolutely. And someone in the audience, maybe not your audience, but someone out there will be like, "Hey, you missed this other typo that you didn't mention before."
right, exactly. So you've got part one is a reality check. kind of grounding you in what makes comics, what making comics actually requires, and laying out two guiding principles you'll come back to in every revision. Part two, you talk about common storytelling problems and how to fix them. Part three, you talk about the self editing process. And then in part four, you give resources. And now I'm really kind of excited by these stretch goals. So I'm going to go down to these because
Oh, I
uh,
think I got to change that graphic. I
I
think it
found
just
a
sat
typo, James. I found a typo.
Where is it? Where is it?
Well, 200 you've made 250 backers.
Oh,
You've
yes.
got to
I am
click off that
delayed.
stretch goal. Yeah, you got to get on that. So so at 210 backers you added an annotated reading list, books that shaped me. I'm a huge nerd. I love seeing lists like this. So I'm excited for that. But I was very excited to see that you had actually hit the 250 backers.
That's
Self-editing
great.
House of Fear, a case file, 80 plus pages, before and afters with real notes to the artist. I think that's like a huge thing for a writer to check out and see.
Yeah, I found some notes to Jethro Morales about House of Fear. I think some writers have mentioned to me that they're not quite sure how to tell their how to work with their artists as far as like pointing out problems that they see. So I'm
Yeah,
just essentially sharing. Here's the notes I made and uh, the corrections that Jethro ended up making. And I shouldn't
that's
even call
awesome.
them corrections necessarily. A lot of them are just uh, I disagree with how this looks, or this over here might look better. Let's try this, and showing what he did to change the page. So
That's great. I think that's going to be a great resource. And House of Fear, of course, for people who don't know, James had a book with Dark Horse called House of Fear. Brilliant horror comic for kids. My son was a huge fan. And yeah, just to see how that was developed. And James, you also have a great series on your Substack. If anybody hasn't read it, please check it out. It's all about the experience of pitching to Dark Horse and getting the book out. It's really a fantastic series. So definitely check that out. You have a forward from that up and coming comic writer Tyler
yeah, I pitched
James.
the idea to someone who was brand new to the scene, and he accepted it.
Amazing, amazing. The other star of this show, Justin Gray, you got a nice little pull quote from Justin and Kat Calamia, who definitely knows a thing or two about making comics.
Yeah.
Um, I guess you had to have a third pull quote, so you got some scrub to do that. But you've got checklists, you've got examples, pro tips, advanced techniques. Full disclosure, I have read this book. It's fantastic. And I really think people are going to get a whole lot out of it. And you let people get a free sample. Now, just to check out the reward tiers, right? So, like, if you just want to get the book, you can get the book, but you're also taking consultations, very reasonably priced, $100. Story edit level one, $300. Edit level two, 600. This is all reasonably priced, and you get a fantastic book to go with it. So, oh look, and you do have House of Fear in there.
Yeah, I felt I kind of needed to have an add-on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So,
yeah.
but my goal was to make this about your comics, not my comics. So I kept it very limited on those add-ons and what I offer. So,
Awesome, awesome. And yes, as Joseph points out, the book is now in hardback
yep.
by popular demand.
Yeah, I debate. It's funny. I debated that forever, and I deleted that tier like moments before launching, and
Oh,
then
really?
maybe 3 days in, I had a couple people saying, "Hey, are you planning a hardcover?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't," no. But it was fun to do something midstream. I don't think I had ever done that before. Uh,
Yeah.
a tier that kind of came out of nowhere or whatever. So, and I had a poll on Kickstarter, which I had never done before. So
You're a man of the people. You listen.
that's right.
You hear the feedback. You respond.
That's right.
That's great.
Give the people what they want.
That's right. And Justin says, James, so you know, I have had people reach out calling your book gold for creatives.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that should be another stretch goal is like maybe there's gold plated versions.
Ooh.
No, but that's awesome. So I'm gonna be honest. So when I was working on House of Fear as fiction, and I'm sure other writers understand this, marketing, hyping yourself, that's hella hard for me.
Mhm.
'Cause it's like, well, what's the benefit of you, Clay, reading House of Fear? I struggled with that, all that stuff. This feels different to me because I know what aspiring writers, struggling writers, independent writers, whatever wherever you are on that, uh, scale, there's value in here. I've had I wanna say I've had 14 beta readers,
Yeah.
and they all essentially say something along the lines of, "It feels like you wrote this for me." And I've kinda pushed some of them a little bit further, like, "What did you like? What tell me about the tips," and they're almost all completely different at that end.
Mhm.
So this book, not everybody's gonna find 500 tips, but you're gonna find 10 or 12, or the book that you're working on right now might have I don't know, an ending that isn't quite as strong, and this book will help you make it better. So even though some of those other chapters aren't ringing true in the moment, there's gonna be something in here. And for some reason, it's a nonfiction book, so to me, I feel I don't know how can I say this? It's easier to tell people about because it's nonfiction, it's this my own, experience with other writers, whereas fiction is I have 2 books on Amazon that I never even bothered promoting. They were on Kickstarter for, like, 10 days, just in and out,
Mhm.
and I don't have any I don't have any reviews and I don't care because I know how hard it is to promote, but this, I'm out there, "Hey, everybody, you need to read this. You need to check this out. Justin Gray liked it. Clay liked it. I know Tyler liked it." You're gonna find some value in here. And it's for 20 bucks and your next comic and then comic after that is even 1%, 2% better. It's worth checking out.
It's definitely worth the investment, and, you know, you can write it off on your taxes, right? If you're out there making Kickstarter comics, it's a write-off.
Ooh.
It's right?
That's
Professional
see,
development.
I could have had like a tax write-off tier for $25. It's the same book, but
Same book.
it's
Yes.
easier to write off for tax.
Well, look, upgrade to the hardcover, everybody. If you're getting the paperback, be like Joseph and upgrade to the hardback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm like you. I love talking about this stuff, and this writing this book was really hard because I shouldn't say it was hard. It was hard to limit it in scope because I kept wanting to add, and I kept, and I think at one point you and I talked about like who's the audience.
Mhm.
It's so hard to nail down. Like this book will help early writers, someone who's only written one script, but it also will help someone who's written 10 and hasn't quite figured it out as far as like getting continual repeat customers or backers on Kickstarter, readers who aren't hyping your book. Uh, again, there's that spectrum, and I kept asking myself, "Is this too basic?" And then the next day, I'd be like, "No, well, this is too in depth." And there was this struggle, but now that I have it in my hands and I've read it and I've shared it with others, I'm kind of tempted to write something similar.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
see
would be for novels or like uh, this book is all text. I didn't do before and after art,
Mhm.
in large part because, I wasn't sure about the audience I would get. I didn't wanna extend myself and paying an artist 10 grand or something like that to make it,
Sure, yeah, yeah.
so, like, there's options to, like, make this a little bit more of a workbook, things like that, but we'll see how the general reading audience thinks about it first, but, I do love talking about this stuff, and, I had a podcast last night with Blake, and, it went late, and I was like, "Yeah, I could do that again." So,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah.
great stuff.
And, Blake, who I think is out there in Substack
Yeah, he
land,
was here at some point.
listening. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Blake always gives good show, and, I have no doubt believing that it went over. I'm
His
sure you
hype
guys had a
yeah,
lot to
yeah,
talk
right.
about.
his introduction with the clapping and his I felt like I was entering a boxing ring and I was gonna defeat Mike Tyson or something, the way he was shouting. It was pretty awesome.
Well, I'm sorry we were a little more sedate here, at the
That's right.
late afternoon Substack show,
We had a
but
couple of good page turns, so I like that.
exactly, exactly. Awesome. Well, I'm putting the link again in the chat. And so I definitely want people if first of all, again, this is like the first time I've done one of these. So I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just chuffed that so many of you chuffed, is that the right word, that so many people turned out? Being
Sure.
chuffed, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
I
Uh,
don't
I'm
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 not sure I've ever
happy.
heard the word, so
Well, okay. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't use words I don't know what they mean. How about this? I'm pleased as punch to see that so many of you turned out to
beast
listen
has
to
punched
a,
man. Wow, that's
a couple of
okay, if
guys
that's how we're gonna do the first time on live streaming, that's cool.
tickled pink.
I think you're making it worse, man.
Am I making it worse? Okay. Uh, I'm I'm
No, you're
I'm
all good, you're all good.
I'm very happy that so many people. Oh no,
You're canceled.
Justin says the network called. You're canceled. They're going in a different direction. Well, guys, it was a great run. Thank you for joining us for our only episode of Substack Live. Um, Matthew Schofield says, great conversation. Really looking forward to getting my copy of the book. That's fantastic. Joseph, thank you so much for listening. Jessica, I know you're out there. Everybody who was listening, seriously, just amazing that so many people tuned in. Thank you.
Yeah,
If
this
you'd
is
like to
great.
see more of these, let us know. If you haven't backed James's book, please do. Please, self-editing for comic book writers, look it up on Kickstarter. You've got like what, a week left to go?
Yeah, next Thursday, so yeah, a week from now.
Yeah,
Yep.
next Thursday. So there's still time, but please spread the word because I think anybody making indie comics could benefit from reading this book. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
Where can
thanks
people?
for having me on. We need to do this again. Maybe, I'll host one for the first time, and we can talk about lettering.
That would be,
'Cause I know
ooh,
that's a big thing that,
yeah, yeah.
especially the newer creators, newer writers, they fumble the ball right at the end line there with the lettering. And I think talking to you about some of that stuff would be very
That would be
insightful.
great. And anytime, anytime. Well, listen, let the nice people know where they can find you online, and we'll sign off.
So here on Substack, the Fiction Coach, that's probably the easiest way to reach me, but I can also be found on jamespowellediting.com. I'm on Blue Sky and Facebook every now and then, but not enough to really hype those. I'm kind of anti AI or anti AI like everybody else, but anti social media these days. But I do poke my head in there every now and then.
Fantastic. And I'm clayadams.substack.com. My work is at friedcomics.com or bloodlinecomicspictures.com, I think. I hope I got that right. And now, I guess, like an awkward old man, I'm going to try to figure out how to end this thing and find the end button. But thank you all for tuning in. James, thank you again for
Yeah,
being
thanks for
on.
having me. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye, all.